right? I don't have these aspirations of my company having 500 clients. At 100 clients, I'm good. Like I could talk to 100 people a month. I like that.
Hey, welcome to 10X Your Team with Cam and Otis. We're a father-son leadership podcast where we talk with other lifelong learners about making an impact and solving big problems. And as I go through and do my quality assurance checks on our show, I just realized that a recent episode, I did not say leadership podcast for some reason. I guess I wanted to keep that as a mystery. Even though it says that word, and there's a lot of letters in that word, so it's hard to miss it. Leadership, that's what we do. And matter of fact, the call that I was on that caused the folks, here's a public service announcement. If you do not own the meeting and you move it on your calendar, and the persons who are part of that meeting do not see an email or whatever it is that it goes into the ether world, guess what? It's moved on your calendar, but ain't nobody else got it on their calendar that way. So
no, sir. Paul and I still had it here.
Yeah. So, but that's okay because we can adjust.
Yes, sir.
I mean, we do it all the time, right?
Oh yeah, gotta be ready. Roll with the punches. Wow. Even if you're having trouble getting out the phrase, like roll with the punches.
Yeah. Well, obviously you didn't do enough warm up while you were waiting on me to show up. Paul, I saw Paul in the green room doing some stretching. Paul, yeah, look, he's doing. You ready, Paul? The side straddle hop.
I'm always ready. I was born ready. You don't got to get ready if you're already ready.
Yeah, well, I'll share something with you. I learned from one of my best friends in college is that you're never ready. You're only prepared because ready has an end state. So preparation continues. And I was like, damn. Learned that when I was like 18, 19 years old. Had to carve it in stone to remember it because, we didn't have, fancy pens and papers back then. So
yeah.
Go ahead.
I was gonna jump on the ready there because it's got me thinking rugby. You're ready till you get exposed, and then you got to go prepare some more. Is what I was gonna say.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So, Paul, now that you're ready or prepared, and still have space to prepare, tell us what got you going since you were born ready. What got you going into this world, this business?
Yeah, well, I've been in marketing for over 15 years now. And a lot of it was running companies for other people, which is kind of funny because it was a fantastic testing ground, proving ground for ideas where I really wasn't experiencing all the consequences.
On somebody else's dime, it's really good to test, isn't it?
Worked out really well. But it showed me I had an aptitude for it. It showed me it was a natural skill set. It's all about attention. Right. And I think I've throughout my entire life thrived on attention. I enjoy attention. I have a toddler, so I see it in him. We all, we're always looking for eyeballs. The fun part of marketing is like, how do I turn eyeballs into wallets and invoices and purses? And, what is that next step that we do with it? And it was just awesome to have that proving ground because I made those guys a ton of money. I made a lot of people a lot of money until I got to the point where I was like, I think it's time that, I start putting my name on those invoices instead of someone else's. So that's, and then of course, God places circumstances and situations in front of you for a reason, right? We were talking like God never gives you anything that you're not capable of withstanding and making it through. And I'm a true believer in that. So much so that before I started this company, I was like wavering with the idea, but I got a ton of money thrown at me when I was the director of business development at one marketing company to come over and be the COO of another marketing company. I said, you got to pay me a lot. You got to be sure there's lots of zeros on there. And they did. They put a lot of zeros on there, and it was fantastic. But 9 months down the road, a very quick 9 months down the road, checks are bouncing. They're asking if, hey, can we push your payment off a month? And I'm like, ooh, I do not like the writing on this wall. Only to find out that one of the financial backers of that company just got sent to prison for 25 years.
Ooh,
and yeah, and so then I got a team of 10 people looking at me that I've hired and built over these 9 months, and they're like, "So, do we have jobs?" And I was like, "I don't know, but I will not be here Monday." So you guys can kind of do with that what you feel. I had a little bit of a Jerry Maguire moment, so I was like, "I'm gonna go start my own thing. Who wants to come with me?" And I had one guy who I called him my Renee Zellweger. He was with me until just fairly recently. And said, who's grabbing the fish? Who's walking out the door? And he was right with me. So that's when my company started. Initially, we were #smart marketing, mostly because I already owned the domain. I already owned the LLC from a side hustle that I had when I lived in Miami. And so it became #smart marketing. And our very first client was a guy that I had signed 3 days before I found out about that financial backer getting thrown in prison. And I went to him hat in hand, honestly, and said, I'm going to go do my own thing. I want you to be my lighthouse client. I want you to be my guy. I'm going to make you look fantastic online. I'm going to do everything I can for you because I want to be able to show you off to everybody else. I know this is weird, and you just signed a contract with this company, but here's a new contract. I'd love you to be my first client. And he said, sure, let's do it. And 5 years and 1 month ago, that happened, and he's still with me today. So I think a lot of it is just I wasn't totally ready to start my own company, but something was placed in front of me, that opportunity. I had tons of experience, tons of opportunities to learn and grow, and not that I've had a lot of great mentors in my life, but I believe mentorship is kind of a two-way street. You either learn, hey, I want to be like this, I appreciate this, or you say, that's not for me, like that. And so I've even though I don't have a ton of really great mentors, I have a lot of people that I know that's not me. And so it's kind of that whole idea with your belief system is if you find your belief system is not serving you, just make the complete opposite decision, right? And so with a lot of these people that I've been able to interact with in my life, they've really kind of slowly built me into exactly what I, as a 20-year-old, kind of wanted to be, even though it was not the most straight path to get there.
I really want to, before you go, Cam, I'd love for you to share if you have any insights, and how did that guy that ended up in prison, Monday morning quarterback, and at hindsight 2020, did you see any indicators when you went, holy crap, yeah, because he did that, yeah, that's why he did
the big bag of money he walked in the office every Monday.
well, the reason he got thrown in prison was not business related. It was for child pornography, actually.
Oh,
so pretty messed up stuff. However, the guy, he had some legal trouble, some business legal trouble in the past that I knew of, but it was more in kind of like crypto space and kind of in these more gray areas where, especially he was kind of competing against some large corporations, which I'm not a fan of large corporations at all. And so I think probably I gave him a little bit of the benefit of the doubt of when you're fighting against these massive powers, who knows what underhanded tactics you have to take. And also genuinely, he was a nice guy, nice enough, right? He had a way with him that you could tell he was a very salesy guy. You could tell he was he had some charisma to him, and that also suited me well because I was like, well, I'm an operations guy now. I've always been awesome at sales, luckily. But I was kind of excited to not have to be a sales guy for a while. And I think that was probably part of what was appealing to that situation. And so, may have thrown those blinders on for some of it, but kind of is what it is. I honestly don't really think about it all that much. It's kind of like my military time. I don't really think about it all that much because dwelling on that is not going to serve my future in any significant way.
No, thanks. I was more just in that curious of, what are some indicators that others could say, oh, keep an eye out for that or that. But yeah, child pornography, good riddance.
Under the jail.
Yeah. And a salesperson personality. Yeah. Yep. So run your trap line, folks, I think is the lesson there.
Yes, sir. I was going to say, I'm not even going to try to segue out of that one. I'm just going to go back to what I had before. So, Paul, I'm really interested into talking about that like first few days where it's like you saw the opportunity, all the chaos going around, you saw some of the dots, like, okay, I could go this way. What I was thinking was going to that first client that you had just signed, and maybe there was a relationship there, so it's not as terrifying, but that seems like freaking just crazy to do. Like because you made it sound like that's like within a week at least, right? That you were going, it's like, okay, this is done. I'm moving on. I'm starting my own thing, calling up that guy from last week. That's a pretty quick turnaround. I would be terrified personally. Could you talk some about the mindset going through that process?
I think it was desperation was probably the mindset. It was, one, I definitely built a nice rapport with the guy. Our lead sales guy actually had set up the meeting, and then he called me and was like, hey, I can't make this. Could you go talk to this guy? And I said, yeah, sure. Like, I'm very knowledgeable in basically everything online marketing, from paid ads, websites, SEO, social. Like I've been in this world like waist deep for a long time. And so for me to find kind of what that point was that he was looking for, and the big thing he was looking for was like all in one. You could tell that this guy's main pain point was, I'm sick of having an SEO guy and a web guy and hoping that somebody's doing something on social and like sending something to my receptionist and being like, hope this gets done. Like from a marketing standpoint, he wanted a guy that, to say this without sounding, too braggadocious here, but like a guy that kind of could do it all, kind of knew everything in it. And so that, between the conversation that I had with him and seeing that was his main pain point and being like, well, you're the only one, I felt like that was actually probably additional value I could present, right? Like, not only do I know how to do it all, I'm very capable at all, but you are it. You're the only guy that I'm going to be working with initially. Mm-hmm. So I spun it as best as I could, right? And then as with anything, like that's what sales is like find the pain, point out the solution, provide that value. So it was pretty seamless. Plus, me and this guy, we had a lot of commonalities. Luckily, I've lived in like 8 different states. I'm a veteran. I'm a religious guy. I'm a Christian, but I also love some spirituality. I love ancient human history. I love reading. I read nonstop. I'm a nerd. I love comic books. I got Spider-Man behind me, flags. I kind of can step into any world and feel fairly comfortable in it. And I find that's just always served me extremely well in quick rapport building and relationship building. And that guy, between seeing the pain that he had, seeing that we had like some commonalities in sports that we like and kind of life philosophies, I felt like I guess 1, this guy's probably gonna come with me because him and I had this relationship. 2, what's the worst that could happen? Right, like, it's like he says no, and I'm like, all right, well, it is what it is. So, and 3, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take, right? So it's good Michael Jordan quote right there. So I think God has placed so many opportunities in my life, and my one calling card throughout life is I just jump at all of them. It's why I've lived in 8 different states. It's why I joined the military. It's so much of my identity is to jump at opportunities that, I probably would have kicked myself more for not doing it had I even done it. And he said, get the heck out of here, kid. So
Talking about the identity there's an interesting piece, which is like kind of the personal brand with the business brand. And I would love to hear your perspective on it, especially with the marketing background, because you're talking about all these different things, being able to walk in all these different worlds. I know I felt that at some point, as an entrepreneur, if it's like, I could do all these different things and I want to do all these different things. It's hard to sell people on that. It is really hard to be like, I'm the sustainable ag biggest guy who did virtual events and leadership coaching. And it's like, that all makes sense to me. Dad, that all makes sense to you. You've known me a very long time. Like that makes sense to folks that know me. But to sell that to somebody is a very, very different thing. Could you talk some about how you kind of went through that process of your own kind of personal brand?
Yeah, we have changed up our service offerings many times. Initially we were like a website company, and then we were a website SEO company. And then I was like, well, marketing is so synergistic. I mean, you can build a system out for somebody where they're generating more reviews, and then you're answering those reviews in a thoughtful, compassionate way that's endearing them to their local community. And then you take that and you snip it and you turn that into social content. And then you take that, and now with AI, you build an audio file and you have like a cool AI image going on in the background of it reading that review. Like, there's so much that you could do to kind of like cross-pollinate your marketing by just understanding that this is all a system. And with that, I think it comes into framing. Like saying that you do ag and you do this and you do that. If you don't have like a linchpin behind what the pain is, I think that's where you lose that, you get that disconnect. My linchpin was like, no attorney likes doing marketing. None of them do. I mean, they generally suck at it. No functional medicine doctor, which is what I work with even more so than attorneys now. Not for the money, because they can't pay me a quarter of what the attorneys pay me, but finding that same linchpin is like these people go to school for 8 years and they take maybe one business course, definitely not any marketing courses. And so when I come in and I say like, hey, what is the unique value, that you present? And I have to like pull that information out of them. Like, I had this doctor who was like, I have great bedside manner. I'm like, well, I certainly hope so. Like, because if you're advertising I got a shitty bedside manner, like it's probably not gonna go over well. But like taking that and pulling it out, eventually I got him to like admit that he likes Harry Potter, and like he goes to Hogwarts with his grandkids, and they all got the wands and they do the thing. I'm like, do you want to be the Harry Potter naturopathic doctor? Because I can make you the Harry Potter naturopathic doctor. Go buy some wands, get those up on the wall, throw on a black, whatever. I'm not a Harry Potter guy. I can't really like speak to it all that well, but throw on your black cloak and your do all your stuff. I was like, great. Like, send some pictures. I will do it, and build a cool website around it. So now you're very like relatable, and I'm getting to a website and I immediately feel like a connection with somebody. You take kind of the wowing them on that possibility and that opportunity, plus not having to actually do it themselves, and the amount of weight that kind of comes off their shoulders. That's how our services has kind of grown beyond websites and SEO and gotten into the social and the reputation management and this, because it does really all work together. And it's solving the biggest pain point, which is like, I don't have the expertise. I don't have the time. I don't even know really what I'm doing. I don't even know who I am. So if I can show up and be like, this is who you are, this is the value you present, this is how to display that online, this is how you do that without having to lift a finger and keep getting to talk to your clients or talk to your patients. We are, and that's one reason why we can charge a bit of a premium, because there's just not, I personally don't think that there's a whole lot of marketing companies out there, especially in those industries. You talk to, I don't like to crap on the competition, but you talk to like a Scorpion or a Fine Law or a Patient Pop, like they're not having those conversations with their clients. They're not, and they're nickel and diming them for every little thing. And I'm like, here you go. Here's a price. I'm your online guy. You need a graphic? Let me know. You need a website? Let me know. Like, it's kind of, I think the value speaks for itself the moment that I'm having those conversations with people.
Well, as you've grown in the business, how are you managing what it is you do and what it is you have others to do for you? Because, if you're the one-stop shop answer for it all, that only works for one or two clients, because there's still only, no matter how good a marketer you are, there's still only 24 hours in a day. So how are you doing that?
I am an efficiency nerd. That's why. So a few things. One, I have an amazing team. I hire veterans. So I'm a veteran. I've got 2 veterans here in the U.S. And then I've got some production assistants in Kenya. I've got a graphic designer, web developers in Venezuela, some more in Indonesia, some social media guys in Mexico. So I keep my costs reasonable by not outsourcing it. They're all salaried monthly employees of mine, and systems. I think that, with the size that we are right now, and, we've got a couple dozen, 35, 40 clients or so, managing on a team of about 9 people, like that's well within the range of what would be doable for an agency. How we've grown over time has definitely been a struggle and a pain point for me. I've had 3 different salespeople. They all very nice people. None of them could sell the way I sell. None of them could display value the same way I could. So at one point, I remember being like, I don't want salespeople anymore. I want to grow at the pace that I can sell, and at the pace that I can delegate, at the pace that I can build the system, hand it off to people that I trust, and ensure that they're trained very well on it, to the point where it took 4.5 of the 5 years I've been open, right? But now at this point, I sell, I do podcasts, I do the strategy, I do a monthly meeting with clients, and that's about it. Everything else is handled by a team. And especially with AI now, all of our clients we build an AI avatar for. So if you want to talk like what blog content to write, how to answer that review, I interview someone for 45 minutes to an hour, take the transcription, drop it into AI, use a GPT that I built in there, which builds GPTs, build the GPT around them, boom. And now, like, if I didn't have that tool, and we've been utilizing AI for 3 years now or so. We were using Jasper for content like a couple of years ago, spin rewriters to rewrite content, like to kind of keep the SEO stuff fresh. So we've been kind of heavy in the efficient use of AI as best we can. But with ChatGPT really blowing up and the capabilities, the integrations, everything that we can use now with it, I probably would have needed 3 or 4 more people than I have. Now, actually, 3 or 4 is probably a vast understatement with the amount of content we generate. At one point, I had 10 content writers that were just contractors. Yeah. For all the content that we were having to put out. I now have 1. And they're much more of a content editor that's utilizing these AI systems and building out content that we can have written through AI, but it's so custom because I've interviewed this person and built a custom GPT around them, and it knows their goals and their voice. I even ask them fun stuff like who are some authors that you like? What are the publications that you read? And I could pull that data in order to build a more custom system around it. So the quick answer to your question is systems. Mm-hmm. The bit longer answer is AI is awesome. And if you are really good at building systems and incorporating these amazing new technologies that we have, I don't see it as much of a hindrance now as it was even 2 years ago.
I'm really curious because as you're kind of talking through your story a bit, you mentioned that with that last business before you went out on your own, that one of the things that you liked so much about it was that it was more operations, less salesy. Now in your business, you're going, I want all of the sales. Could you talk me through that a bit? Was it a little bit of like you needed the space? You're like, okay, no, the love for the game came back, or what was it?
So that's a great question. I never really thought about it, but when I went to New York City initially, so just give you guys kind of like the real quick context. I was in the military, lived in Atlanta. I was a golf pro for a few years. Then I started working for Dick's Sporting Goods, moved up with them, went up to Buffalo, New York, was back in Buffalo for about 2 years and was like, got to get out of here. Moved to New Mexico. I opened a scooter rental company, which was my first company I owned. I had pop-up shops through 5 locations throughout New Mexico. I ran the entire company from an iPad and Google Scripts in Google Sheets, basically. And I had a business partner with that, handed it off to him, took a sales job with Main Street Hub, which is, at the time, they were the largest social media reputation management, mobile website management company in the U.S. And they were based out of New York City. They've since been bought by GoDaddy for like hundreds of millions. But when I got to New York, I was, I think, like the 16th, 17th hire. So I literally built my desk, and it was a cold calling job, and it was, let's go. I was really good. I became the trade show rep, so I was traveling, 30 weekends a year to different cities doing trade shows, whether it was restaurants or I was the golf guy. I had like 30 golf courses that I had as clients. And I was always very good at sales, but I was very different in my sales. Like if we've all probably had a cold calling job before, right? And it's like 150 dials a day, smile and dial. Like I worked that list. I was the one that would get everyone in trouble. And it's probably the reason that I never became like a big manager with them. That's probably one of the reasons why they said you'd be better at trade shows than training people, or because I was the make 25, 30 calls. My average call length is 15 minutes. Closing rate is like 30%. Like I was the enigma of the, yes, he gets the results, but don't do it like him. And so I think that's probably, and then I got to do trade shows. I was very, very good at that. So now I'm just talking face to face, doing the same thing. Training a salesperson to sell that way is just, I don't think it's possible. I don't know that you can have somebody and be like, hey, your job is to be friends with them. Like they should want you to date their daughter by the time you're done with this conversation. Like that's my, probably one of my biggest sales strategies. And that's why when I started this company, I had this crazy idea of like, what if I just didn't lose any clients? What if I was not a marketing company that churned and burned, and average, like with Main Street Hub, average client lifespan was about 7 months. With the next company where I was a director of business development is about 9 months. And now I've got my company, and my very first client's still with me 5 years later. So it's like very different approach to marketing. And with that, allowed me to grow at, 1 to 2 new clients a month that's fine. Like we're staying in the black. We're staying very manageable in our expenses. Our growth is, pretty easy to forecast out, because I'm like, oh, that's wherever I can cut and be more efficient. That's just another month I can kick out hiring another account manager. Right? And so I can kind of look at it that way. And I've gone through those times where you're like, I want to hire 3 sales guys and let's amp up the company. Let's double the size of it. And I still do have like some pretty big aspirations for company growth and things like that. But I understand that a lot of people buy into my company because of me, because of the systems that we have, because of the relationships that we build. And even though they end up dealing with my account managers, they know that I'm always available, and they know that my account managers are incredible human beings as well, that I hire very intentionally, not because they're maybe like super proficient in social media, but maybe because they just answer the damn phone every time you call them, and they get back to emails in 24 hours. And they generally, we say all the time up here, like we serve those who are serving others. Like you have to have a service mindset to work in my company. Like first and foremost, before you're a good salesperson, before you're a good production person, all those.
Yeah. So I was just gonna say, would you say that's the difference then? Is that it was almost like somebody else's definition of sales, and now you're doing Paul's definition of sales, and that's why you're more comfortable with it? Yeah,
that's a really good way of putting it. It was, how do I provide the most value while also treating others exactly how I would want to be treated? Like I've had contracts with companies where like, no, you didn't cancel within the 30-day window of the thing. And I'm like, dude, are you telling me that? Or is some corporate lawyer telling you that? And you're just following the rules. And I'm like, how would you feel in my situation? Well, it doesn't seem like the most fair. I'm like, I know it doesn't seem like the most fair. It's because some lawyer wrote that. And now you have to follow it. Go talk to your manager, please. Explain this situation, see if you can get the stake. Well, if you're having those types of conversations with people and just being real with them and relatable, I truly think that's the future of business too. I think that as with everything ebbs and flows. I think that I see it a ton in the healthcare space right now, because people are leaving mainstream healthcare in droves, going towards functional medicine, naturopathic medicine, osteopathic doctors, because the allopathic method or allopathic system of throw pharmaceuticals at you or cut you open, like those are your options. People think that there's probably better ways of doing things. And we used to do it that way. Like we could get into the whole conspiracy of Flexner reports and Rothschilds, or no, Rockefellers, changing the AMA and all of that
stuff. I'm sure neither of them were doing good.
Yes. Yeah. But it was all very like, the reason medicine is the way it is today is profit driven.
Mhm.
The reason medicine was the way before was because we wanted to take care of each other. I think marketing is going through something similar. I think that initially people were like, hey, I have a value of making you look good. And then marketing turned into Mad Men of like wheeling and dealing. And now I'm hoping that we are getting into a world where my style of marketing is more the norm, right? I think that in my world, there would be no Amazons. There'd be 50 Amazons, right? I don't have these aspirations of my company having 500 clients. At 100 clients, I'm good. Like I could talk to 100 people a month. I like that, and so maybe the fact that my entire goals, aspirations, business model is different. Obviously, it's going to translate into how I sell and how I operate from production side.
Well, let's talk about clients because business wise, of course, it makes more sense to not have a client turnover, just like it makes more sense to not have employee turnover. What's kind of a two-parter that I'm thinking is, first off, when did you go, oh, this is how I want to do my business? And then the follow-up was, well, who's somebody that left, a client that left, not who, doesn't have to be a who, but why'd they leave? Or even just as important, why'd you fire them?
That's great. I actually have good examples of both. So when did that realization come in? Quite early, I would say. I get a sick to my stomach feeling if I disappoint someone, if I let them down. And I probably let that get. There's been times that I've had to like write in the mirror, right on the dry erase board, like it's okay for a client to cancel. Like it's like I have to remind myself that sometimes. But I also think because not that I take it like so personally, but I take a lot of pride in what I do. Like nothing is better for me, talking to a client 60 days after being like, how do you feel? And they're like, you're a godsend. You are like what I've been wishing a marketing company was. And that feels incredible because we've all used bad marketing companies. We've all had somebody tell us that they were going to do something and then not do it and promise us the world and not hit it. And so I think it was very early on that I, probably partially because we're a startup, I literally started up with no money. It was like me and I told this dude like, hey, I'll pay you like $1,000 this month. That cool? Like we'll figure it out. Going down. That was literally like kind of how it started. And so early on, it was probably a little bit of like Gollum from Lord of the Rings styles, like my precious, my clients, like don't leave me, like, which maybe over time morphed into, hey, this really works. Being a production company with me as the sales guy, like that's how I see this. Is more like I have production people. I don't have salespeople. I have me, and with clients, I have had at least 5 I could think of clients that have canceled, left me, paused their service, right? Like whenever somebody says I want to pause my service, you're like, okay, like cool, like you let me know.
See ya.
Yeah, I mean, just tell me no.
Yeah, right. But here's the cool thing though is I never burn bridges. I'm so try to be as gracious and open with my time and being empathetic and being compassionate about it of like, hey, why are you leaving? Like, oh, I don't have the funds this month. I'm like, okay, I totally understand. Maybe we could scale back a little bit what you're doing. And they know that I'm not being a salesy douche about it. I'm like, I'm legitimately saying like, well, if your budget just went from 2,000 down to 1,000, here's where the value would be at 1,000. And would you like me to continue doing that? And that's probably one reason why clients don't leave me is because I'm willing to work with them. Another thing that has been completely unintentional, but such a feather in our cap, is I've got at least 5 clients that have paused, left, canceled, that have come back and said like, hey, so we tried it. Yeah, like grass was not greener. And I was like, I totally get it. It's totally cool. I already have your logins because, I don't delete things. So you ready to try to charge your card today? Like it's an awesome conversation to have. I have also, because I work with attorneys, fired a handful that just values wise, what they're looking for doesn't match up with how we operate. I like to call them the ambulance chasing douchebags. I'm very like,
I was gonna say, did you not really like their idea of tying the big banner behind the ambulance so that it's just right there all the time, or what?
I was like, just take the sticker, this QR code, slap it right on the ambulance. They don't even know. That way, I like creative marketing, right? It's probably not a bad marketing idea, but no, it was generally in like operational stuff. If I had one guy swear at one of my clients or swear at one of my employees, and I'm a military guy, I swear a lot. Like, sorry if you guys don't have swearing on your podcast. They just had to come out. But yeah, he said some very rude things to one of my guys, and my guy called me, and I just called him up and I said, "Hey, so one, I'm still your marketing company, but I'm only your marketing company for the next 60 days because I'm such a nice human that even though I am firing you, I am not going to force you into a situation where you're scrambling and things like that. You have 60 days to go find a new marketing company. Never talk to anybody on my team. Here are the deliverables that you'll have for the 60 days. If you have anything that you need done outside of that, call me, and I will either tell you it's possible, or I will tell you what we're going to upcharge you for that thing. But you know, values-wise, we just don't align. And you should go find a marketing company that is willing to do the things that you want and operate under the way that you want to operate." And it sucks. I mean, I've probably got tens of thousands in monthly recurring revenue that I don't have. Should I? Because it's always, I mean, and this is not me stereotyping at all. This is like, is what it is. It's usually like big box PI, personal injury law firms, same ones that want to have 50 million billboards, same ones. But there's some of them that are just absolutely incredible human beings, where when you're interviewing them and you say like, "Why do you do what you do?" Like, "Oh, well," or even when you're designing a website. I have this one guy, we were designing his website, and the top of the fold, that's your emotional connection, right? That's the very first thing somebody's seeing. And so I always ask him, the question I say is like, "What do you want people to feel when they first land on your site?" And this guy's like, "Well, I do personal injury and workers' comp, so they're going through some shit if they're checking me out, right? Like, they're hurt, they lost their job, they feel discriminated, like they're not in a great place. I want them to feel like the clouds are breaking, like I'm the light at the end of the tunnel. I am going to solve this problem for them. I'm going to do it hand in hand with them." And like when you have an attorney say you that, you're like, awesome. I want to serve you because you are serving others. And so now you land on his site. It's him smiling. It's not, scales of justice and stupid stuff like that. It's literally a sun breaking through clouds. His law firm, I mean, people could check him out because he's such a wonderful human being. This guy's Drake Law Firm out in Los Angeles. But you land on the page that says you're safe with Drake. It's very comforting. There's sun breaking through clouds. There's kind of this, it's like an overcast LA day, but then it kind of cuts to a beach scene, and you're like, oh, okay, like I'm not selling the fear of it all. I'm not, doing the angry stuff. I love putting smiling faces on websites. I tell clients often that you're selling outcomes, right? You sell the sizzle, not the steak. The great marketing phrase, right? That's a good Mad Men quote, by the way. But you're selling the sizzle, not the steak. You're selling the outcome. You're selling positive health. You're selling, making it through this horrible situation that you're in, financially and emotionally compensated. Like, if when you're talking to a client and you're telling them these things and it's not resonating with them, and they're thinking like, how do I chase the next ambulance? Like, it's pretty easy to like see, okay, we're not aligned. Like, you are not. Yeah. I can't serve you because you are not serving others. And also, Glassdoor is a great resource. You look on Glassdoor and you see what their employees think about them. That's what led to another termination. Was it was very clear. I had his admin actually reach out to me, and she was like, "I just want you to know the type of guy that you're working for." And that could have been just a disgruntled employee, and I kind of chalked it up to that. And I was like, let me take a look at his Glassdoor and see if she is the only one, and she was not. Yeah. And so I asked him about it. And he, very defensive about it, very, did not want to admit his shortcomings. Mm-hmm. And so then it's a very easy conversation. And again, I'm like, dude, you got 60 days. I'm not so horrible a human that I would just kick you to the curb like that. This is what we'll do. So, and I think that's one of the reasons I love doing podcasts, because when people kind of hear how I operate, business just comes my way, and I don't necessarily need to be a super salesy guy, because if somebody hears oh, this is how this guy operates. Like, I'm the type of people want for a marketing person, and I know it too. It's like, it's not, what's for usually braggadocious. It's not like being conceited. It's not. I like truly feel like I serve people well.
And obviously have your values as a standard that you follow and stick to, which is always a great reminder for businesses and really anybody. Don't go against your values, but that's not what I learned. I like the definition you had very early on of marketing. It's turning eyeballs into money. Because that's what it is, right? It's not this brand or that brand. It's turning eyeballs into money. Camden, how about you? What'd you learn?
Yeah, for me, I think it's a really interesting thing. Paul, you talked about some of the average lifespan makes it sound bad, but lengths of clients at some of these different marketing companies. And it made me think back to a marketer we had on a year or so ago that talked about how you don't know the effectiveness of your own marketing efforts until 6 to 18 months down the road. I'm thinking, okay, well, 7 months is a lot less than that. So that's just a really weird place to be in. But it just goes back to, I think there's such an interesting problem set around the effectiveness of marketing. And it's, just because you're spending lots of money on things and there's lots of money coming in does not necessarily mean that the money you're spending is the thing driving that. Like, there's all sorts of different things like that I think is always just an interesting piece of the conversation around marketing of what is the real effectiveness. Like, we were joking, Paul, in the green room about all the spam calls about political stuff. It's like, are these really working? How much money are they spending? Like, all that kind of stuff is always fascinating to me. So that was a interesting piece of data to add to that in the back of my mind, I guess.
Paul, how about you, man? What'd you learn?
Yeah, I am a big advocate of self-reflection and introspection. And Camden, when you sat here and asked me that question about sales, if it was like switching back and forth and doing that, just to have that opportunity to sit there and think about why I did things the way I did, how I've changed, how I've grown, and the kind of gratitude and a little bit of pride, but also kind of like a recognition sometimes that it's a journey, right? Like, you go through some stages, and I appreciate you asking that, because I've never actually sat down and thought about it all that much. And so I thank you. I'm grateful for you for helping me grow a little bit there and learning a little bit about me.
Yeah, I was just going to add on that real quick before you go, Dad, because that's something you see in the sports world all the time. I've had plenty of players that I've coached that, have told me that they had a coach they hated and they almost quit the game and stuff like that. Like that stuff happens. And I think we don't apply that lens to business enough, because it's not necessarily the job you have. It's, who you're working for, what the business is like, or the values. Like, there's a lot of other things that go into it. Sometimes you got to go do it your own way and find the love for the game again.
Yeah, awesome. Paul, how do folks find you, get in contact with you, and learn more about developing and becoming a client that has a relationship with their marketing agency?
Yeah, the website is honorable.marketing. And you can find me just about everywhere, TikTok, Instagram, as Honorable Entrepreneur. It's one reason, I have to be honorable, right? I throw my name out there on it. If you put honorable on there, you better not be
nice little
too shady.
Device.
Yeah, right? It's like my way of holding myself accountable. And then my ex Twitter is just Mackiewicz Paul, which is my actual name. But everything else is Honorable Entrepreneur or honorable.marketing.
Thanks. And side note, it still feels funny just saying X. There needs to be another syllable there. But
well, I wish there was something better than tweet, because you still have to say, I tweeted this. You can't say I X'd it or I re-X'd it.
I X'd that on the X thing. And
got so many re-X's on that last X. Yeah.
Paul, man, always a pleasure to see you. Really appreciate you taking some time out of your day today to hang out with us.
Yeah, wonderful. I appreciate it so much, guys. Thank you so much.
Camden, run us out.
All right. Thank you all for listening to today's episode of 10X Your Team with Cam and Otis. And a special thanks to our guest, Paul Mackiewicz, for joining us today. Remember, you can watch full episodes of the show on YouTube at 10X Your Team. And if you enjoyed today's episode, please make sure to pass along to other lifelong learners in your tribe so that they can enjoy it too. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. As always, the full archive of episodes available at www.10xyourteam.net. Thanks again, and we'll see you all next time.